They said the forest was empty at night, just wind and owls. They were wrong. We'd driven until the asphalt gave up and the map turned into contour lines. The last mile was a dirt ribbon between firs, moonlight pouring through their teeth. We picked a hollow by a black pond, set the tent near stones that looked like teeth around a fire ring. It was perfect. A sky of pinpricks, the smell of damp pine. The kind of silence that presses against your ears until you start to hear your own blood. My friend Mara laughed, stacked more wood, said, "No ghosts tonight." We believed her. We believed in small comforts, a thermos, a playlist, a brand new hammock. The first hour slipped by like a film. Beer, stories, the fire talking. Around midnight, the woods started to listen back. It was subtle at first, a single deliberate tap against a sapling, like a knuckle testing a door. We paused. The fire popped. Probably a deer, Mara said, but her voice had thinned. The tap came again, then a soft scraping that moved from tree to tree, never quite arriving where we were. It wasn't wind. Wind doesn't know how to be polite. We scanned with the headlamp. Nothing. The beam made teeth of trunks, shone on a smear of hoarfrost. When it swam across the pond, the water was too still, too black, like someone had painted the moon out. We joked louder. We threw marshmallows to make noise. The tapping stopped. For a while, we told ourselves the story of the forest, that it was merely echoes. Then Mara leaned forward, listening, and her mouth went thin. "Did you hear that?" she whispered. There was a second sound below the tapping, a slow, methodic stomping. Not footsteps, but impressions, as if something heavy but careful were making itself a path. When the light hit the shore, there were small, crowded prints in the mud. Dozens of them, all heading away from us, into the trees, and none returning. We woke twice between then. Once to find tiny stones arranged at the boundary of our firelight, placed edge to edge like a fragile crown. Once to a low sound at the tent flap, a breath that seemed to slide along the fabric and hold. Mara sat bolt upright. Her eyes were wet and bright and very human. She smiled at me, and it was not the smile she'd worn that night. Her lips moved, but no sound came from her throat. Her head tipped very slightly, as if listening to someone I could not hear. "Go check the pond," she said. I laughed, because fear often turns into absurdity. But there's a part of you that obeys small domestic commands even when the world cracks. So I grabbed the flashlight and walked the ring of stones. The beam punched a path through the fog. The pond was a hole in the night. On the surface, something had ripped the algae smooth, like a hand had stroked it clean. There were prints along the bank, ones I hadn't seen before, small, webbed, strangely human, and they led out into the trees where the underbrush had been pressed flat, as if 100 little people had left a single, purposeful trail. When I turned back, the tent was empty. The sleeping bag was folded neatly. The fire was smoldering down to a single ember. There were no gear strewn about. No sign Mara had gone in the usual frantic way of someone lost. Just one of the little stone crowns placed at the tent flap, like a tiny marker. The air smelled faintly of something metallic and the scent of pine. And under it, something else. Old paper, the memory of a voice. I called her name until my throat hurt. The woods answered with the tapping, now a slow applause. I followed the prints, and for a while they led me deeper, under a canopy that swallowed light. The beam caught faces in the puddles, dozens of reflected faces, only seen from the angle of the torch, like props arranged in a theater, each expression blank and waiting. I lost the trail where the trees thinned and the ground fell away to the old logging road. There, lying in the mud, was my phone, screen cracked open like an eye. When I picked it up, the last photo was of Mara. She was asleep in the tent. The next photo was one I hadn't taken. Mara, sitting at the edge of the pond, staring across the water. Her mouth was open a slit. Behind her, through the trees, I saw a shadow between shadows, too tall to be a man, too precise to be animal. The last thing on the phone was a voice memo. I hit play because curiosity is a kind of compulsion, and a rusted laugh crawled through the speaker. Then a whisper, calm as a bedtime story. We watch, we wait. We like to be seen. I ran, because running is all that is left to us when the forest learns your name. The path back was a braid of bare dirt and pressed down leaves. I reached the car. The engine turned over. Headlights cut a slice across the trees. In the rear view, something slid behind the tree line, like black water. I drove until the asphalt returned, until the streetlights stopped swinging, and the town began to smell like late-night pizza. At home, I replayed the memo until my phone warmed in my palm. I thought the sound would give me proof, something to hold against the forgetting. But every time I played it back, the whisper was softer, until it was not a voice at all, but the sound of someone standing very close and breathing. Tonight, I keep the tent folded in the garage, but the little stones, there are 3 of them, sit on the windowsill, neat as teeth. At night, I can hear a patient tapping, just beyond the ridge of my sleep. Sometimes, when the moon is a thin coin, I wake to find one more stone on the sill. They said the forest was empty at night. They were wrong. They're simply very, very careful about who notices.